Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm sharing experiences, true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show over at the website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. And you can support the show in a few different ways. A couple of those would be to sign up for the Patreon page where you get extra content, and or check out the merchandise store. And support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows. Also, please check out the links to friends of the show. That would be Jen, the Arcane Observer, who is the co-host of the show on Saturdays, as well as Michael Strange, host of the Trouble Minds Radio show and the network, the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP, Digital Broadcasting, where you can hear my show and many other amazing shows 24/7 online. And I believe that takes care of everything, so we'll get right to these true stories here. And just a reminder, always happy to share any experiences you all have had. If you want to write them down and send them to me in an email or through Discord, you can do that. My email for the show is salsidoparanormal. salsidoparanormal@gmail.com. And we can go from there. You can either write them down or we can talk about them on a show. So, going to the document here with all these true stories I found. Let's get right to that. Thank you all for listening. I just minimized the Word document. There we go. That's better. So, this one says, I was driving home late at night. I saw the same person walking down the same stretch of road 3 times within less than 5 minutes. The person had the same clothes, same limp, and was walking in the same direction each time. On the second sighting, I slowed down, questioning if I had somehow looped the route. There were no turns, no side roads, and I was not driving in circles. The repeated sighting gave me chills, and I refused to look in the rearview mirror out of fear. The experience remains unexplained. I felt as if the environment had been reset in some way. And that's where that one ends. It's a short one, but that is really wild. And I've heard of similar accounts like that here and there, where people see when they're driving or moving in any way, they see the same figure going in the same direction, but on foot. So it's unlikely that they would have been able to get from point A to point B to point C on foot in the amount of time it took for the person driving to get there. If it was a regular person, if it was a normal flesh and blood human being, as we know them right now. So then the question is, what is that? And I think there's a lot of possibilities there, because the only thing we know is what the person there saw, and that is the same figure basically appearing in 2 different spots along the same road, but again, covering distances somehow that do not seem possible on foot. So it really is, and especially going the same direction. I wonder, they don't say what direction they're going, but either way, if they're not being seen the whole time, in other words, the person driving is not seeing a blur every so often that moves and then stops along near where the driver is at. I don't know. That is I always wonder, is that a spirit? I mean, I think there's different options there. Is it a spirit? Is it some other interdimensional being of some kind? I don't know, but I've heard a few accounts of that over the years, and so I don't discount that when I find accounts like this now. And I don't know what they saw. It's odd that that would happen like that. They talk about it almost like the whole idea of the glitch in the matrix idea, but also I wonder, is it just because whoever this is, they're able to do things that seem like it comes straight out of a movie, out of that series in a way. But yeah, that's an odd one there, and I always wonder about that when I hear similar accounts, because they do show up every so often. You'll find one so in a show or whatever you're listening to. But and it makes me wonder: are some of these figures the same as the vanishing hitchhiker phenomenon that have happened? Are they different? Do they sort of, I don't know, choose if they want to do that or not? Again, as usual, I have no idea, but thought that was a wild one and wanted to share it. I uh, I think I'd have to get some kind of a weird sense from anyone. Uh, if that ever happened to me, I might not know it unless I was able to sense that there was something different about the figure, because I'm legally blind, so um, I can't see details from a distance of people, but I can be somewhat sensitive to energy and other beings around at times. So I'm just trying to think if I would ever, um, what it would be like if I ever had that experience. But I just realized I don't know if I'd have that experience, but that's okay too. Still haven't had a any kind of a cryptid or creature experience, and I'm okay with that too. Not having that overall, so. Some of them can be fine. Some experiences they're very pleasant and there's no problems. But other ones not so much. They're pretty scary. Anyway, this next one says, I am a junior nurse in a children's hospital emergency department. I've had a few paranormal experiences, as many people in the medical field have. And this is my most physical paranormal encounter. This happened years ago during a late night shift while I was transferring a patient to the wards. The emergency department was in a new building connected to the old hospital by a long enclosed footbridge. I was tired, sleep deprived, and fueled by caffeine and nicotine. While pushing a patient in a wheelchair, with the patient's mother walking alongside us, I noticed a red balloon floating about 6 feet off the ground as I entered the older part of the hospital. The balloon began to spin, which I at first attributed, there's no at there, I don't know why I was saying that, to a draft from fireproof doors. The balloon then started following us, bobbing as if being pulled by something, possibly a child. The patient and mother did not notice the balloon, but I kept watching it as it followed us for about 60 meters, maintaining a distance of 7 to 8 meters. When we arrived at the ward, the balloon caught up, then veered right to settle above a row of seats, as if someone had decided to sit and rest. After exiting the ward, the balloon remained floating in place, giving me an eerie sense of being watched and recalling other ghost stories. The experience frightened me, enough so that I asked other nurses to handle transfers for the rest of the night. This was my most obvious paranormal encounter, and I enjoy sharing the story to scare new coworkers for fun. And that's where that one ends. This is another thing I've seen here and there over the years. Reports of balloons moving in what seems to be weird ways. As if, again, like the writer there says, like someone is holding it and pulling it along. And usually when I come across these kinds of accounts, this is the first one I've found where it was in a hospital or in any kind of medical facility setting. Usually, before when I've heard of them, it was always a balloon that had been stationary in a home for however long, and there had recently been someone who had passed away in the family, or at least that the family knew. And after that happened, the balloon started moving around. And it's such a it's funny in a way because it's sort of like a contradiction. You have this, to some people anyway, frightening thing happening with this non-frightening object. This object is supposed to be to bring joy, to make people happy. So I found this one odd as well. The way the balloon made a sharp turn. Again, you wouldn't think that would be happening without some kind of a major breeze that the person would feel. So I don't know, but I thought that was an amazing account of an experience, and really, just again, I've heard of similar accounts, and I like how they describe it. It was like someone was actually pulling the balloon along, and then stopped and maybe sat down, and so it's really I thought that was a neat one. I understand why the writer there was freaked out, but yeah, I thought that was a neat one. And I mean, I imagine if it's happening like that, a lot of times it's not meant to scare anyone, especially in the cases that I mentioned from before where it seemed like it was possibly the loved one that had passed away, pulling the balloon along to basically show, hey, I'm still here and everything's okay, while having unintended consequences of possibly frightening the people that they're trying to contact in that way for whatever reason. Again, if you think about it, a string for a balloon would be a lot easier to manipulate compared to, let's say, a door or many other solid objects. It's a string, and you just have to pull it. And I mean, not that I know how this works and how energy is transferred into the physical space and is able to manipulate physical objects, but just thinking based on experience I've heard and read about before, where objects are manipulated, and the idea that it's spirits, even though I at this point now I don't always know that's the case, but the idea that it's spirits manipulating objects to try to get the attention of people around the area. So anyway, let's get to the next story here. And thank you all for being here and listening in. This one says, my father, who was 76, passed away last year. He and my mother were extremely close, like two halves of a whole. Days after his death, my mother's wireless Bluetooth doorbell began going off multiple times a day, with no one at the door. Over time, the frequency decreased to several times a week. And now, a year later, it still happens a couple of times per week. The doorbell incidents often coincided with significant moments. One time, it happened when I urged my mother to see a doctor. It happened again when a friend of my parents visited. When my mother returned from a trip, it went off again. During a social gathering marking the 1 year anniversary of my father's death, the doorbell went off about 20 times in front of about 20 people. My mother openly shared her theory that it was my father's presence, and the group responded with acceptance and humor. On a recent visit, I was alone in the house when the doorbell went off. It felt like a personal greeting from my father. Even though there may be logical explanations for these events, my family and I find the experience comforting rather than frightening. My father had a background in electronics and a strong personality, making the idea of him communicating through the doorbell feel plausible to us. Early on, the doorbell would even ring at night until my mother asked it to stop, after which the nighttime incidents ceased. My mother replaced the doorbell with a different brand, but the phenomenon continued unchanged. My brother is skeptical, but I am open to all of the possible explanations for these events. And that's where that one ends. I really think that one is a neat one. Um, the reaction it seems like there's reactions to requests or to events going on that just, and there's so many of them. To me, it seems to rule out just a simple malfunction of a device. And so, and especially with the nighttime events where it was going off and the mother asked for it to stop, and it stopped. Never did that again. The gathering of people there, where it went off for just about as many people that were there, went off the amount of times that lined up with the number of people that were there. I just really, that's a neat one there. And that it went on for over a year and still goes on, even with a new and a different doorbell. So then you have to, if you want to try to write that off, you have to wonder, well, what's going on with the wiring of the house? And I don't know, but yeah, that is a wild one. That's weird. I'm also getting some kind of a weird sound. Sounds like anyway, maybe not. Now it's fading. Huh. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, I thought that was a neat experience to share, and I mean it's several experiences. It's the same type, but it's several that happened to this family, to this mother and their children, at least one of them anyway, and then the friends of the mother and everything. So so neat account there of experiences, and I've heard and read of other accounts with doorbells, but not to that extreme, and not with the amount of significance or connection to the people involved, to the point where most of them felt like it was the person that had passed. So I just thought that was a really amazing account there. So let's try to get one more in here before we end this show. And let's see. So this one says, I live in Texas. I'm 19 years old and work as a security guard at a camp, driving a golf cart around the camp from 12 to 4 a.m. I have lived in the area for 10 years, am very familiar with deer, and have seen both healthy and mutated deer due to my background in animal science. I am generally skeptical of supernatural explanations and prefer rational, scientific explanations for things. On a recent night, around 3:40 a.m., while patrolling a stretch between the main gate and the cabins, which are flanked by heavy woods and cliffs, I felt watched and spotted a deer-like creature on a cliff about 15 feet away. At first, the animal resembled a normal doe, but on closer inspection, it was about 8 feet tall, with a much thicker body, neck, and head excuse me, than any deer I had ever seen. Its head and neck were thicker than a nearby tree trunk, and its eyes looked unnaturally off and unsettling, like poorly done taxidermy. I aimed my flashlight at the creature, trying to rationalize what I was seeing, considering explanations like a large buck, exotic species, or a tree stump, but none fit. I experienced a deep, uncanny fear, not for physical safety, but a sense that the creature was fundamentally out of place. As I drove away, the creature turned its head smoothly to watch me, reminiscent of a camera panning. On the return trip through the same area, the creature was gone, and nothing in the area resembled what I had seen. I have been unable to find a rational explanation as to what the creature could have been. Nothing natural I know of matches the sighting. And that's where that one ends. That is a huge creature, whatever that is. I wonder, I feel like it was something odd or paranormal or supernatural in the way that the writer there got this weird feeling from it as it watched him. And not even counting the physical attributes there, that's very tall for a deer. And then the way it was so huge, just in size, not just height, but just size, the thickness of the body and everything. I do wonder, is this some other creature trying to appear like a deer and failing? It doesn't sound exactly like the... But see, there's so many variations of the whole not deer phenomenon where people see a deer with almost like a human-like face, or a deer that stands up on two legs, and then looks like almost like a human shape, somewhat. So there's variations on that. So I don't know if this is just another variation on that, or what that would be. But and again, this is from someone who has studied apparently in animal sciences. So you would think they would know, at least to some degree, what they were talking about there. So yeah, I thought that was an odd one. I wanted to share that. I do try to cover every kind of encounter here, as long as it's not super negative, in this show, and these are important ones. These and any kind of alien sighting, any kind of lights that are seen, and they're all important, I think, to cover. So, but that's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.